Hi, my name is Maniko Barthelemy. This case study examines the implementation and impact of an assessment at Palo Alto College in 2009 that lasted nearly 10 years. This case study analysis in the spring of 2021 is for EDFR 6675, assessment in higher education. It's a course taught at the University of New Orleans designed to provide students with assessment skills and an understanding of the role of accreditation in higher education. The aspects of this assessment include explaining the meaning of an assessment as defined in Assessing Student Learning, a Common Sense Guide by Linda Susky, the author of the course textbook. We'll review the history of Palo Alto College and why it became a site for a National Institute for Learning Outcomes assessment, what the case study involved, revealed, and redefined for all institutional stakeholders. We'll detail lessons learned and highlight best practices throughout deciding what we want our students to learn and making sure they learn it. It is a four-step process that can seem tedious, taxing, and trivializing if faculty and staff do not embrace or link the overall value of assessment to the credibility and success of specific programs or an institution overall. The four steps of assessment include establishing clear, observable, expected goals for student learning, ensuring students have sufficient opportunities to achieve the clearly defined goals, analyzing the assessment evidence to gauge how well student learning meets the expected and defined goals, using the evidence to holistically improve student learning. Quite often, the obstacle that hinders assessment from being part of the fabric of an institution centers around the confusion or misconception about evaluating an institution or program to highlight ways to improve overall. Faculty, as outlined in Chapter 14's list of common root causes of foot dragging on assessment, point out that they often lack resources. They also lack time to work on assessment committees, and many don't actually understand what they are doing or what they need to do as it relates to changing curricula and teaching methods if assessment evidence is discussed. Palo Alto College opened its doors in 1985. It's located in San Antonio in Bexar County. The college is near three military bases: Lackland Air Force Base, Randolph Air Force Base, and Joint Base Sam Houston, a U.S. Army base. Of the 10,000 students registered as of 2019, 80% of those students were Hispanic. 20% are first-time or first-generation college students, and a significant number of students are military veterans. The campus-wide slogan is "Together We Can." The workplace culture is comprised of more than 1,500 faculty and staff members. 1. A case study is essentially a report card. An in-depth look at a case study is essentially a report card and into the state curriculum. Because of the evidence in the initial assessment in 2012, all courses on Palo Alto's campus were required to teach and assess two of the 6 core values: communication and critical thinking. The "Together We Can" motto seemed to lose its significance in that same year, which was shortly after an accreditation visit. There was assessment committee turnover. Faculty felt pressured to do assessments only because accreditation was important, not because there was a vested interest in reshaping the institution's learning objectives. However, PAC was committed to shifting the culture, realizing assessment actually centered around accreditation. Learning outcomes were measured by a sample of student work, and results were never shared with students, all of which chapters 1 through 3 in our textbook flag as assessment, development, and implementation. It began at PAC. It almost immediately addressed the list of issues institutions face when trying to form an assessment committee. As Chapter 7 in the textbook explains, there's no magical 3, 2, 1. The 2009 assessment at PAC The 2009 assessment process began almost immediately addressing the list of issues institutions face when trying to form an assessment committee. As Chapter 7 in the textbook explains, there's no magic formula for creating a culture in which everyone habitually engages in assessment and uses the resulting evidence to inform decisions. The chapter examines complications with getting everyone on board. PAC, as it began building its assessment team, addressed professional development concerns, since sometimes potential committee members shied away from being involved because they did not know or clearly understand their roles and responsibilities. The community college offered workshops frequently throughout the 2009-2010 academic calendar. In 1 year, they began assessing 6 objectives. They are critical thinking, communication, empirical and quantitative skills, personal responsibility, teamwork, and social responsibility. To do the assessment effectively, staff submitted key assignments and rubrics designed by the Association of American Colleges and Universities. They combined the content with rubrics from other universities. During the 2017-18 academic year, a new full-time assessment coordinator remodeled the assessment committee structure, and the 6 core curriculum objectives were renamed Institutional Learning Outcomes. In 2017-2018, PAC aimed to build on the success of putting together the assessment team of stakeholders, but this time expanding and including active, engaged students. A mini grant supported the cost of professional development for assessment committee members to offer assurance and an example of applying institutional learning outcomes. A poster campaign, similar to a political campaign, delivered the message of importance as it related to the institutional learning outcomes. In classrooms and common areas, framed posters defining each institutional learning outcome were prominently. PAC broke assessment 3-2-1. PAC broke 3-2-1. PAC broke assessment of the ILOs down by examining 3-2-1. PAC broke assessment of the ILOs down by examining 2 at a time in biannual increments. From 2009 to 2018, faculty were asked to submit key assignments to accompany student work. The assignments and instructions were evaluated by the assessment committee to determine if the assignment instructions aligned with the rubric. Of the 243 assignments submitted, 33 were not accessible. There was a disconnect between rubrics, instructions, and assignments. They simply did not align. The solution came in the form of a key assignment design working group formed in 2017. Members represented different programs on campus, met for 2 hours, 3 afternoons in a row. Lunch was provided, and faculty were paid a stipend. This connects back to our lecture slides that emphasized and listed incentives and ways to get stakeholders to get committed and stay engaged. As Chapter 14 discusses, the vitality and credibility of the assessment lies heavily with the structure of the assessment committee. The results of the committee's evidence redefined the meaning of assessments and re-energized the entire PAC community. Students felt valued and visible in a setting where they contributed to teaching culture changes. Staff members, by having a diverse committee, benefited from being open-minded and respectful, embracing and suggesting new ways to improve the overall alignment between rubrics, assignments, and assessments. Moving forward, Palo Alto has a plan. They are going to expand student participation by recruiting students early in the assessment planning process. The institution is reviewing methods to electronically share their best practices with all stakeholders. A brand new teaching and learning center serves as a resource center for faculty and staff. Thank you. I would love to hear your thoughts and feedback.